Welcome, everyone. Let's begin our lesson for today by going over the learning goals and success criteria. First, what are we learning? We're learning how to understand interval notation and identify the intervals in which a function exists, how to find the domain of a function both algebraically and graphically, how to determine how a function behaves around given values, to determine when and where a whole or asymptote occurs, to determine the x-intercepts of a function, to determine the multiplicity of the roots of a function, to sketch graphs of functions based on the characteristics of the function, to determine whether a function is positive or negative, to determine whether a function is increasing, decreasing, or remaining constant, to determine minima and maxima of functions, to determine whether or not a function is even, odd, or neither, to determine whether or not a function is closed, to determine the end behaviors of a function, to compose multiple functions, to recognize the various ways that a function can be represented, to find function values of functions, to use function notation to find points on a graph, to manipulate the context of a problem to find solutions to fit another context, to apply functions and their various representations to real-world applications, to examine functions and compare their function values and behaviors in given intervals, to recognize the characteristics of periodic functions and recognize them as repetitive intervals, to perform mathematical operations on functions to determine their function values, to perform algebraic operations on functions to determine their function values, to use sign charts to determine their positivity and negativity of functions, to find the products and quotients of functions, to find the function values when performing a composition of functions, and to recognize patterns in geometric figures as being functions. How are we learning it? Through the MRWC second semester final exam assignment. When can we use this information? To understand boundaries to determine which possible solutions fall within the boundaries and which do not, to recognize trends in graphs to determine the trends in stock market, to examine financial trends in a business to determine when the value might reach zero and the company goes into debt, to be imaginative in your ability to find solutions to problems when only given limited information, to examine financial statements for businesses to determine times of profit and times of debt, to recognize high points and low points of a given stock in the stock market, to perform simple calculations such as a budget by recognizing boundaries of numbers, to determine if adding the items in your budget will stay within your income amount, to determine the direction a given stock is trending and determine if we can anticipate that trend continuing, to determine how a given stock might change if the stock market trends change, to practice examining problems from all angles and examine the various ways to solve the problem, to find solutions to any math problem, to examine how previous experiences and previous solutions can help lead to positive outcomes for current issues, to recognize repeated patterns in daily tasks and their common solutions, to plan for changes in the rates of your electricity bill to anticipate how your bill might change once a new rate takes effect, and to examine financial statements for businesses to determine times of profit and debt. How do you know you learned it? By getting a score of 4 on the MRWC second semester final exam assignment. Now let's take a look at our agenda for today. We will begin by going over the learning goals and success criteria. After that, I'll give you time to complete the MRWC second semester final exam assignment on Illuminate. At the end of class, we'll go back over our learning goals and success criteria while you fill out your before you go. Let's take a look now at the MRWC second semester final exam assignment. The assignment begins with the learning goals and success criteria. If we scroll down, there's a link here to take you to the Illuminate page. Go ahead and click on that link, and it should take you to a page that looks like this. Let's talk now about how to log into Illuminate so that we can take our assessments. So when you click on the link to go to your Illuminate, it should take you to a page that looks like this, and it should already have the access code already there. So the only thing you need to enter in is your student login. Now your student login is your full student ID. So we're going to go ahead and enter that in. So we enter in our full student ID and click Next. It's going to pop up to a page that looks like this. It should have your name right here and your student ID here. It should tell you what test you're taking right here. If everything looks right, you're going to go ahead and click Confirm. From there, it should take you to a page that looks like this. You should have the title here. It should have your name up here in the top right corner. It tells you when the test closes and how many questions are on the test. You'll go ahead and click Begin Test. That will allow you to begin your test and complete the questions. Once you're done, make sure you go back to Google Classroom and submit your work.